I brought a picture, which is up on the table here. It was in the newsletter 2 or 3 years ago. There's about 14 or 15 young guys there. And I can't hardly recognize any of them, but I lived in Whitehaven, and that's where we got this club started. And Noble Guthrie, W4BS, whose call sign y'all use, we still use as the club sign. And I've been a member of the club ever since it got started. All the time in California, I maintained my membership. I told somebody a while ago, I may be the oldest member here, both in longevity and years too. I've got a lot of years behind me. But I'm living over in Lexington, Tennessee now, and I'm on the air. My son helped me get my dipole up in the trees, and if you hear me on hollering, we'll chat some more. But it was an interesting, we had Hamfest. In fact, Hamfest, this cap I've got on, my mom still lived in West Memphis when I was still flying. I'd stop by and see her, and the club was having a Hamfest over at the fairgrounds in the women's building, and I borrowed her car and went over there to the Hamfest and bought me a cap. And I've been had it around ever since. But it's been a thrill to be here. My grandson Jonathan graciously drove me over here, and y'all can look and tell I don't drive too much anymore, especially at nighttime. But it's good to see this many people here. I still belong to the San Fernando Valley Amateur Radio Club. And the San Fernando Valley part of LA must be 1 million people in it. And we have about 40 people in our club meeting. So it's good to see it turn out like this. And it's just like our club out there. We have people show up, and we're struggling still out there. Well, I'm not we anymore. They're struggling because I got out of there. I went to California in '67 and got my call out there, this call. But when I got moved here, I was going to try to get K4VIS, which was my original ham call. But a guy in Kentucky has it. It lapsed out, and they gave it around. I've had about 5 calls as I've moved around the country. But I'm glad to get, and not to deter California, but I'm glad to be out of there.
We get it.
We get that, yeah.
The worst part about it, everybody around here talking about where to park. Back there, you got to try to find a place to park. And it's just too many people and too many cars and too much price. Oh, it costs a lot to live out there. And I got back here, and I look at gasoline, $1.99. Out there, it's about $3.25. So, thank you. Be glad you're living back here. I plan to get back over to some more club meetings later on when the weather gets a little better. But if anybody's got any questions, we had a lot of Hamfest as the early club. We had one at Harbin's, J.C. Harbin's. Anybody know that in Whitehaven? The ice cream parlor down there. We had a Hamfest there. I knew Jack Adams, and we had a Hamfest down at his Twinkletown Airport. We had one at the fairgrounds. We had them all over the place, and it was a lot of fun. But y'all are a lot more active than we were back then, and it's good to see action. And I'm got my ham rig running, and I'm glad it's up and running. So if you hear me on, shout at me. Anybody got any questions about the early part of the club? It's been, as you can tell, 51 years or so. I may not remember too much. Yes, sir.
Who came up with the name?
I don't know. Now,
It works, but I just...
yeah, well, I wish I could answer that. Now, I can tell you that I noticed your club emblem is not the original club emblem. And I never could, when a while back they were trying to figure out what the club emblem looked like. And I don't know how this one came about, but early on, my wife was a rather designer, and she designed a club emblem for us. And if I remember, it was a couple of tubes and an antenna or something, but that's been too many years ago to remember what. And I was telling Jonathan coming over here, I wished I'd have kept all the paperwork I had for Delta Amateur Radio Club. Then I could come up with some definitive answers, but you know, through the years, you lay stuff away so you won't forget where it is, and then you forget where it is. And I do that a lot, more so nowadays, but yeah, I don't know whatever he asked, I can't even remember in seconds what he asked. But the high school down there was for HZB, horses, zebras, and bears. And the guy in the shop there was part of the club too, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of mobiles back then. And of course, we wasn't nearly as many cars around, so it wasn't such a hard time. We participated in a lot of the Cotton Carnival parades. I heard somebody mention the Cotton Carnival. Every year they had a parade, and we would get a group of mobiles and ride along. Every third or fourth float would be one of our mobiles, so if they had a problem, we could rally real quickly and get them helped out. So we did some useful things besides going on. One of the early things we did, and I've come back here and I can't remember or see where anything is. I remember in Whitehaven at 51 and Rains Road, the big shopping center there, we got permission to set up a field day out in the middle of their parking lot. And that was a good move. We had a lot of people come by and ask about ham radio, and it was a lot of fun. But we just went on and on and on. And I sure am glad to be here, and I'm looking around, and I don't know anybody. But I've been gone a long time from here, and it's good to be back. I've got kids out in California, and I've got a son over in Lexington, Jonathan's dad, and he found a little place near him. And my kid's out in California says, it's his time to take care of you. So here I am. But
Johnny, tell them about you being a pilot. A lot of folks may not have seen those articles.
Oh, I've been a pilot since 1943. Flown all over the place. And some of you are going to look around and ask, I flew for a lot of different people. Let's put it that way. Unless somebody wants to ask who.
Yeah, who? just pick one.
Any name we might recognize.
Yeah. I flew for several companies, but I flew Mr. Sinatra for over 25 years. And that was a lot of fun. And the first thing that we worked out together was he wouldn't fly and I wouldn't sing. It worked out good. He was a lot of fun. I'm just not going to get into details about him. Everybody says you ought to write a book, but there I go. I was going to say something now. 2 seconds, I forgot it. But he and I got along good. He respected me as a professional. I respected him as a professional. He was not my buddy. He was my boss. I was the employee and he was the boss. And it worked out great. But I saw him, a lot of times I saw people tried to cross him and he'd bite back. But he and I did real well together. I appreciated him, and I think I did a pretty good job for him because even after he sold his airplane. It was real interesting. We had a Gulfstream II last, and when they sold the airplane, he made a mistake and he stood up on the stage in LA and says, "I'm retiring." And I laughed at, later on, the IRS walked in the next day and says, "If you don't work, you can't write that airplane off." So they sold the airplane. But it was, he enjoyed that airplane, and we had a Hawker for a while and then got the Gulfstream. And I had him into Europe and down to Hawaii, all over the U.S. And I don't think I ever took him to Alaska or anywhere, but it was a lot of fun. A lot of the companies I worked for were just as entertaining as he was. Well, not really. I got to say that to defend them a little bit, but I enjoyed it. Everybody talked about what a meanie he is, but he was a real nice guy. And we lived in Palm Springs a while. I don't want to get off into stories, but we were downtown. My mom and dad had come out from West Memphis, and my aunt and uncle came with them. And they got off the plane there with their felt hats on in summertime, leaving back here. But we were all downtown, and Sinatra came, parked and went into the tobacco store. And my mom and dad and I were walking with my aunt and uncle, and he came over and spoke to everybody and gave the ladies a peck on the cheek, and then took my dad and uncle in the tobacco shop and bought them a big cigar. So they were just thrilled to go back home and tell everybody back home about that. But all in all, it was a great time. And even beyond him, I've been flying a long time, and I've had a lot of fun flying. My son flies now, and in fact, one of them flies a jet for Mixway over in Bells. My other son is a helicopter operator down in the Gulf Coast, flying out to the rigs and back. And my daughter took lessons for a while, but she got married and had to quit. It interferes with flying lessons real quick. But I'm glad to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to kind of visit with you a minute about the club. It has a dear place in my heart, and I'll get back over here some later on and visit with y'all. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.